Nilesh Gupta of Lupin joins us now. Mr. Gupta, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Hope all is well at your end, your family, your extended family, and your employees. Can you, before we get into specifics of Lupin, how has the lockdown really impacted Lupin, both in terms of business and also in terms of activity?
Right. So I think first of all, the lockdown happened all of a sudden. So obviously there wasn't preparation time before that. And we were already, as an industry, dealing with some of the China lockdown that had happened and the disruption in the supply chain. So we kind of, I think that had almost started smoothing out, and then this hit. In particular, I think the first week was quite bad because there was a fair bit of lack of clarity on the ground. I have to say that the industry really came together, and all the stakeholders have really supported the industry as well, so that we can, in a responsible manner, continue manufacturing, continue supplying products as well. So there is disruption, of course, but I think it's a lot less disrupted than many other industries.
Mr. Gupta, we are picking up reports, and these are, right now, unsolicited reports that there is shortage of essential drugs, vitamins, essential life-saving drugs, OTC drugs. Is this largely because of there is a supply disruption, or there is simple hoarding happening in the market?
So I think there's a little bit of the fear mentality which kicked in with the lockdown. So obviously people wanted to start, a little bit of hoarding at that point of time. I think that quickly normalized, but there is a disruption. So I think one part is disruption within the compounds of our factories itself, and those, some of those things are in our control. But the other is, there's obviously been a massive disruption on logistics, for example. So I think there's been a lot of production, and last week offtake was difficult. Towards the end of the week, that seemed to be smoothing out as well. So I think there's obviously the fear psychosis which probably led to people storing up. That has evened out. As industry, we're committed to making sure that we can maximize production, especially of the essential medicines. And I have to say that, and again, we're speaking very closely to each other, and the intent very clearly is to maximize production in these troubled times.
Sure. Nilesh, can we then archive your comment where you say that there is no shortage of essential drugs at this point of time?
So I don't think that's I think I'm answering at this point of time. I absolutely don't think that people should hoard up. I think it is very clearly the intent of industry to keep producing. But, for example, in vitamins, some of the intermediates come from China. So, I don't think you can use this statement indefinitely, but at this point of time, I don't see any reason to hoard up.
So what's the update then on packaging material, logistics problems as well? Are you facing any labor shortage due to, the kind of migrations or other logistic issues that you're facing due to lack of staff currently?
I think the biggest problem that we've had is, the feed-in that happens into our facilities. So ancillary suppliers, packing materials, solvents, people who would do solvent recovery or take away certain, byproduct streams and the like. Those are severely disrupted. Most of those people have not even got back on, right? And even though permissions have been given, some of them don't have the ability to handle a situation like this, as a company like Lupin is fortunate to have. That is the real disruption hitting us at this point of time. So our supply chain is working 24/7, right? So I think it's as it is, we're dealing with a labor shortage. On top of that, if we have input material shortages as well, it becomes extremely dynamic. So we, on a daily basis, are taking
Mr. Gupta, tell us what exactly is the situation when it comes to the global picture. Is there a complete lockdown on international business? Are you facing any problems with export consignments?
Yeah. So I would say that things are moving. There is definitely a log jam. I think there's a big hold up. So I think till last week, for example, ocean shipments were not happening. A very large portion of what we would ship internationally would go by ocean, and those weren't happening till some point of last week. That has started a little bit. Obviously, I think airlines were permitted for cargo. And there have been shipments going as well. There's been an increase in shipping rates from some airlines as well. But we've been dealing with all of this dynamically. Rightfully, India is called pharmacy to the world, right? So we produce for the US, we produce for India, of course, we produce for WHO, we produce for a lot of geographies, and it's very important that our global supplies continue. So there has been disruption, but I really, as each day goes by, things are getting better.
And do you expect the healthcare system then to take a knock after this pandemic? Do you think that there will be now changes in generic pricing and supply chain methods post this crisis?
So beyond the point, I can't comment about the US healthcare system, but I think no healthcare system can be designed for a peak, right? And what we're seeing at this point of time is an absolute peak, which is why healthcare systems have struggled, right? So if you look at Italy or Spain or UK and certainly now the US as well, which otherwise has probably one of the most robust healthcare systems that you can think of. But you're never designed for peak, which is why the lockdown, I think, was the right thing for India as well, because you need to be able to stagger out the onset of a disease such as this so that the healthcare system does not break down. I think as far as generic medicine is concerned, there is a reason why it's made in India. It's because of the capability, it's because of the cost advantages, it's about the quality of the product that we're able to produce as well. I don't think that structurally changes, but I think it is like I said, we're pharmacy of the world, so we have to be able to support the world at times like this.
Now, Mr. Gupta, with each crisis, the equilibrium of the world changes, which is opportunity gets created, threat gets maximized. There could be a new normal in the pharma world. So what is your understanding? What could be the new normal for Lupin, for the pharma industry, for the generic industry which you represent?
So I think one of the commentary that you are hearing from many countries is that for essential healthcare services, even essential medicines, countries would like to be able to control the supply chain of what they would have. I don't think that can be done across the board, but I think that's really something that people will look at. I think everybody recognizes the importance of healthcare and pharmaceuticals, especially at times like this. But I think there will be a little bit of rethink on that count. I don't think, and I think this is a massive event, but I don't think this event in isolation can shape the future of what people decide. I think it has to be a bigger thing which goes over many years and decades. And that's how the generic industry has got built. The generic industry has been really built over the last 30 years. Again, I think there certainly is a knee-jerk reaction at this point of time. There certainly is a feeling at this point of time. I think when things, like you said, even out, I think that's when you need to look at these things in a much more level-headed manner.
What is your understanding on the way how the COVID breakthroughs are progressing? We understand that the vaccine development is about 12 to 18 months away. What is the understanding there, A? And B, on the therapeutic front, or on the really, current medicines which are available on that front, how soon do you think we will be able to get a breakthrough on the therapeutic side?
So on the therapeutic side, there are multiple things which are being tried, right? And in the course of, even as early as May, you will get a readout of some of the trials. So there are bigger studies being done on products like HCQS. There are, studies being done on remdesivir as well. All of these will come out in the next couple of months, and there are at least a dozen different kinds of drugs which are being tried at this point of time. I think whatever is happening now is empirical use, but that empirical use is also based on people getting successful outcomes. But I think in May, we will have more positive clinical data which will support as well. The vaccine is the eventual solution. I think it's a minimum, like you said, a year out. But I think that is the eventual solution.
Okay, so, Nilesh, what is your message to the shareholders of Lupin right now, what would you like to tell them? You're a listed company. Everyone's curious given the current situation as well. How should we perhaps look at Lupin's numbers, let's say in terms of also what's going to happen now going forward, the outlook over the next couple of quarters? Will you emerge as possibly one of the stronger pharma players relatively through a time like this?
And I think this is a very important question that you're asking, actually. And you're right, as in we cannot be thinking this quarter. So on this quarter, our biggest focus has been in March and into April, and certainly it looks like it will be for the rest of this quarter as well. Our focus is going to be on maximizing production. How do we maximize production and make it available, right? So I think that's going to be the challenge, especially when you're faced with supply disruptions, when you're faced with manpower disruptions. How can we maximize the optimal mix of what is needed and what is profitable as well? So that's going to be the real focus. There's obviously Q1 is going to be disrupted. But like I said, I think, amongst the industries, we're a fortunate industry, which is really a part of the solution at this point of time. And it gives us the opportunity to continue as well. There's a whole bunch of industries which can't even continue at this point of time. And there will be, unfortunately, a lot of bankruptcies coming out of an event like this. I think as pharma industry, certainly, I think Q1 is going to be disrupted. I think Q4 of last year, which was the period which ended in March, was mostly intact, right? Because really this happened in March. So from that perspective, Q4 was mostly okay. Q1 for sure will be disrupted. And we're hoping that from Q2, things should really even out.
Post the crisis, how do you think pharma generic consumption trends will change?
So I don't think there'll be a change in the way generics are consumed. I think, like we said, some of the things that we talked about, essential medicines, where should they be manufactured? How should the supply chain be controlled? There's a lot of commentary on that going on right now. Again, when things even out, I think that's an important conversation to be had. And I think people make much more level-headed decisions at times like that. I don't think the fundamental nature of the generic industry changes. We, as large generic companies, have global footprints. So we have manufacturing in Brazil, Mexico, in the U.S. Of course. We have obviously a significant manufacturing based out of India as well. I think for countries like India, one of the commentaries that we were having in the course of the last year, not even linked to this event, is how do we make sure that India is self-reliant on things like antibiotics or vitamins, for example, right? So some of it, again, based on demand supply, has moved to, different parts of the world to get manufactured. There's a little bit, I think what is essential, which, governments should be able to control. The rest of it is economics, right? I think the rest of it is based on demand and supply and cost efficiencies, quality, compliance. All of these are conversations which have to be had when you look at the generic industry.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta, for taking time out and joining in, giving us a sense of how your overall business is shaping up, as well as the outlook on the entire healthcare system.